I watched a 45-minute Xbox presentation.
Did you? You actually watched the whole thing?
Yep. Yeah, I did.
Did
you watch?
I did watch the whole
Did you watch the whole thing?
But I watched it in chunks. I just watched the Indiana Jones bit.
Okay.
And then I was like, well, because we're doing this podcast, I'll watch the rest of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you told me to watch the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, no, because today I watched the whole thing too. I was like, we should probably watch the whole thing.
I see.
Yeah. Hello and welcome back to the Side Escape Gaming Podcast, episode 157. I'm your host Jake Burke, and I'm joined as always by. Hey Ted, how you doing? James isn't here.
Hey. Yeah. He's still dead.
He's
from
still
last
dead.
Episode.
Well, when you die, you stay dead.
Yeah. Well.
You don't wake up dead.
It is. Yeah, you're stuck with me.
I'm stuck with you. But
Man.
Good company. We're talking about probably the thing we talk about most in this show is Xbox. Boom. What a reveal!
We're talking about Xbox.
We're talking about Xbox, baby.
Yeah.
But before we talk about Xbox really quick, Ted, have you played a single game this year that you want to talk about on this show?
No.
Okay, let's talk about Xbox, baby. Let's just jump into this. It's kind of a bro show attitude today. Cheers to you and cheers to Xbox, you know.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy Xbox.
What are you drinking?
I'm still working on this Coronado Brewing.
That's right.
Situation.
That's right.
It's all right. It has not grown on me.
You know what's really funny? You're drinking a San Diego beer. I am drinking a Sacramento beer.
No way. Which one are you drinking?
I'm drinking the Cal Crisp West Coast IPA from Device Brewing.
Oh, there you go.
Big Device guy over here.
They make good beers.
They do make good beers. Okay, Ted. Developer Direct. Xbox did it last week, I believe. End of last week. For the people watching on Friday when we go live, it was last week. So we're a little behind. But hey, I want to talk to you about it because this is kind of Xbox's future of 2024. What games we're going to be playing. So.
Yeah. So was this their this is what we have for you in 2024? That was the idea of the show.
That was the idea
right?
of this. Was
this year. If you're paying for Game Pass, you can look forward to these.
Yes. Here's what you're going to spend your
products.
$180 on this year on Game Pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was the mentality I took going into this presentation.
Yeah. All 5 of these games were on Game Pass because there was a secret hidden one in the middle.
Right.
You didn't like that? You didn't like the little surprise one that came in?
We'll get there.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just jump in. So they had 5 games. They really talked about the developers and who they're all with, and what's going on and who's happening. So first game they started talking about was Obsidian, their new game Avowed, which is their Skyrim, essentially.
Yes. That's a very good shorthand way to put that.
Yeah. They've made a Fallout game. Now they're making a Skyrim game.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. They made an actual Fallout game. Avowed is
and
not.
then they made Starfield. They made a Starfield game just before they made Starfield.
You mean
Outer Worlds?
Wild Things?
Outer Worlds. The Wild Things? No, that's a book. Where the Wild Things Are, Ted.
Yeah. I don't know.
You know.
I don't read.
You don't read. That's very true. You game, Ted. Except for not recently.
I game.
Yeah.
Well, not publicly.
Not publicly. I don't publicly game.
This is like shame gaming is what I've been doing.
Yeah. I game in a basement down below. Yeah.
Exactly.
So Avowed, I took some notes. First off, if you haven't seen the cover art for Avowed, it's bitchin'.
Oh, do you like it? Okay.
You don't like it?
It's
a lot happening.
Exactly.
I'm putting it up. I'm putting it up in the video.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. To me, it very much sounds like they don't know what they're doing. Not that they don't know what they're doing, but they don't really. Instead of picking a vibe, they just went for everything. It's colorful and it's cool and it's dark and it's sad, but it's happy and it's bright. I don't know. It's a lot.
It is a lot, but I think it looks kind of pretty. I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'll never see the cover art because I'll see it on my Game Pass screen when I download it.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That one time.
But yeah, it's very pretty. It's very colorful. It's a skeleton man in suit of armor. You've all seen it now because I took a note of it. But yeah, I just wrote sweet cover art. So it's set in the fictional world of Aora, which is actually the world from Pillars of Eternity, which is a game that they've made in the past. Thought that was kind of cool.
I did not know that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That is good to know.
And players are going to walk around first person, a fantasy action RPG, and it looks very much like Skyrim, which we're going to talk about. You explore regions, you fight things. Combat system allows for easy switching of weapons. They showed that a lot. You can switch from your wand to your shield to your bow to your sword. And I think the conversations look exactly like Bethesda conversations. And then it is coming out this fall. Ted, what did you think of Avowed? Does it get your download?
It gets my download mostly because it's on Game Pass.
Yeah. I wouldn't pay money. I don't think I'd buy this game.
I didn't think it looked all that interesting. I think to your point, and to last year's conversation of like what is next generation and then what does not feel like next generation, this game looked a lot like Skyrim in that when you imagine playing Skyrim and you have like a left hand and a right hand, and your right hand just falls out of the camera and then comes back up with a different weapon, and your left hand does that. You know what I mean? I thought it was really interesting. They were talking about how you can combine kind of what's in your left hand, what's in your right hand to do all these kind of fun things.
They showed a really cool thing where they like iced a guy and then like heavy slammed him and he shattered. And it was like, that's cool.
Exactly what I was going to talk about. Yeah, they have a thing where like if you frostbolt him, he's frozen, and then your sword hand can like break that ice. Mm-hmm. So that kind of stuff is pretty neat. But overall, I thought it looked kind of clunky. It looked very pretty, but I also was noticing, I don't know if you noticed this, that like when they were showing these like little combat sequences of like, here's all the different things you can do, I was like, that looks unfinished. That looks kind of chunky.
It looked boring. Also, in my opinion, just like a little boring and kind of like it's still getting molded around what it's going to be.
Yeah, just the way it was, just this little like goblin fight with your character, whatever that's going to be. Just you attacking, then they attack, and like they showed like, oh, you can parry, and your character just raises his shield.
He blocks.
And then puts it back down. Yeah, and it was like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess. So I'm curious about it. You mentioned the dialogue options. I was kind of laughing to myself at that. You know, we live in a post-Baldur's Gate world. It's like,
I know.
Will the world be different after your dialogue options are finished? We'll see.
We're gonna find out. It struck me as old. It like struck me as a game that like felt like a few years old, and like I think that's kind of an issue where like we kind of get into this thing with like these style of games we talked about a lot with Starfield too, is like I think we've kind of moved on from this style of an RPG in a way that we can fuse what made these games great into more fun, I guess.
Yeah. Cinematic maybe, or just flow, like in terms
interesting.
of flow.
Yeah, I'm getting the cap and I'm listening.
Yeah. It just seemed like a last generation game. It seemed exactly like Starfield is to us now. We're like, sure, Starfield was a great idea on paper.
Yep.
But like now that we've played it, and we have played it, it's like, all right, that was a last gen experience. You know, that wasn't pushing any boundaries, it felt like.
Yeah.
Also, one thing that I will now note that I'm disappointed by is I had no idea that Pillars of Eternity reference.
Oh.
They did not sell me on what the story of this game is going to be.
I only got that from the press release on their website.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't mention it.
And, you know, and maybe we'll talk about it with a few of these other games, but like one thing I was left with Avowed was like, I have no idea the stakes of this world. I have no idea the narrative.
They kept talking about like a city that they all love. They're like, oh, this is the best city in the game, the best region in the game. And they never showed it.
Yeah.
I was like, why aren't we just in that region then? Like, I don't know.
So, I don't know. It did not necessarily sell me. Like, I'm curious about it. But specifically, this little presentation did not sell me on playing this hot new fantasy RPG.
No. It was one of those things where it's like, this felt like a Netflix movie coming out. Like, you know, Adam Sandler's putting out these movies. You're like, I guess, maybe I'll play this if like there's not a lot going on. And like this year so far, it doesn't look like there's a lot going on. So like, okay, I'll probably play this in the fall or whatever, but not on my list to play. So
I guess I'll leave room to be surprised, but I was not very hot on Avowed.
No.
That being said, Obsidian does continue to make very well written games. They do a good job when given the tools to. So, cautiously optimistic, as I always say.
Cautiously optimistic. Ninja Theory showed off Hellblade 2, Senua Saga. I think it's called Senua Saga: Hellblade 2. Excuse me. How dare I? Ted, what did you haven't played the first one. Did this make you interested whatsoever in these games?
Yes. Yeah. My little note that I took away from this is it seemed to me, and I think this is more the presentation that they were showing off the motion capture and the acting, and they were showing kind of how they do some of the voice acting or the sound with those like 3D mics. They are really pushing toward this like blend of cinema and gameplay, kind of like what PlayStation has been doing for a while now.
Can I read you the quote?
Yeah.
There's a direct quote from the developer direct from their Dom Matthews, who's the studio head, goes, their goal is to craft living or life-changing art through game-changing tech. Fucking drop that line in developer direct. I'm in.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think that Xbox needs to push into this direction. Push into this more cinematic direction. They need to compete with PlayStation in that sense, and I think this is a great example of that. Again, didn't really show me why I needed to enjoy Hellblade.
Yeah.
I had already heard tangentially from you and from others that the first one is a very good game, which I do want to briefly talk to you about. We'll try and stay spoiler free for anybody who hasn't played those games. But the first game has a lot to do with mental health. Is that right?
Yes. Okay. In a way that the player that you are, the person you're playing is basically going insane.
Yeah. Yeah. And they mentioned that in the developer direct where this main character has psychosis.
Yeah.
She sees and hears voices and stuff like that. But it was really funny because they had this one-off line where they're this character's mastered their psychosis and can use it. And the whole time I'm thinking, that first game is a lot about mental health, right? And then they're like, she's figured that started out. We're gonna move on from that.
Yeah, firing her telekinesis powers.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. So I'm curious, but mostly just based off of hype that I've already heard about Hellblade.
Yeah. This thing didn't make me want to play it more, if that makes sense. I originally wasn't gonna watch it because I don't want to be spoiled much, but because I just haven't seen a lot from this game, so it's kind of fun to go into something not knowing a lot. The big takeaways that I took were it's a shorter experience. They kind of sounds like 8-ish hours is kind of what was floated around on the internet, which I'm cool with because that's also what the first game was. So that's kind of I'm fine with that. But what I thought was really interesting was that they went to Iceland and location scouted, and I just wrote Iceland. How cool! That's so cool.
I know.
Good for them.
I don't know if you caught this, but they also whoever was doing the landscape, he was talking about we went to Iceland to get, it was such a wild experience. You had to be there, and I was like, well,
we're not gonna be.
Yeah. Well, if I had to be there, then maybe you didn't do your job right.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. The first game is so good, very beautiful. It's very cinematic, and like you said, PlayStation kind of needs those. I don't think this is the franchise that's going to light the world, the Xbox brand on fire and make it prominent. But it's very. But
good. I think they need those in their catalog.
Yes.
And the more of those in their catalog, especially ones that do well, will justify bigger and bigger projects to where you are getting games that compete with God of War or The Last of Us.
Yeah. Well, nothing can compete with The Last of Us 10, but
Sure. I'm gonna pick your brain here for a second. We'll do some sudden pop quiz trivia because I don't know the answer to this question.
Okay.
What else has Ninja Theory made?
They made some game that failed spectacularly. It was like an Overwatch clone that came out where they were like, hold on, I'm pulling it up. I'm going on the web because they made a game where it was clearly this isn't going to work, and then it came out and it didn't work, and they canceled it very fast.
Was that Battle Brothers?
No, they made Bleeding Edge. Bleeding Edge.
Oh,
remember this game? Okay,
but Ninja Theory is famous for a series of games, right?
So they made a DMC game, but not the DMC. They made Enslaved.
Devil May Cry.
Yeah, Devil May Cry. Yeah, Devil May Cry. Okay. They made Enslaved, Odyssey of the West. That's that big monkey one, the story one that I want to play. Heavenly Sword. And Hellblade.
Really? Okay. I thought they had
Kung Fu Chaos.
I thought they had more of a back catalog.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious. Yeah.
But they make great fidelity games. They are very much about pushing the console tech forward.
If anybody in the Microsoft world is going to make a blend of cinema and gameplay, it's going to be Ninja Theory.
Yeah. And they do it very well, and they proved it with the first game, so I'm very excited for it. I want them to not, unless they got some great idea with the series, but stretch your legs, go and do something else too after this. Get us something good at the Xbox. All right. Yeah. Next game, Ted. Next game was this, I think, was the surprise game, Ted.
The surprise game.
The surprise. Square Enix, which also really was kind of threw off my prediction. This presentation killed some of my predictions. I'm gonna be honest.
You think? I did do one. Yeah, we'll talk.
Well,
about it.
I want to talk about it because I want to talk about it. But Square Enix popped up, and then I'm like, shit, PlayStation's not gonna buy a developer hanging out with Xbox. That's scary. So they announced Visions of Mana. I think they've already announced it, but we're seeing more of it. There are 17 more of these games, Ted. Do you know that? There are 17 games in the Mana series already?
I learned that because they said, and I maybe it was a mistranslation, but I read through the talk because he was speaking Japanese. He was like, "We're happy to announce this original title," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool, I guess." And then they were like, Visions of Mana, and I was like, I thought they made a Mana game, and then they were like, we've made 17 Mana games. I was like, I don't think that's an original title.
It's an original new Mana game.
Yeah, exactly, it's an original new Mana game.
Yeah. First one in 15 years or something? Something like that.
I actually, in my notes here, I just wrote, like, do people care about this?
No. Well,
I am not part of the Square Enix world. I have never played a blank of Mana game before. I was hoping you might. Have you played these before? Do you know?
No, come on. I'm not a nerd.
I don't know. That's funny. That'll be funnier when we talk about the next game.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very excited.
I just... It looked fine, I guess. But I am so far away from the Square Enix verse, the Final Fantasies, the blank of Manas. I wrote down that one of the developers who spoke looked like a Tekken fighter.
Oh yeah, he looked cool. He was the creator of the Mana series.
Yeah, he was wearing like this black leather trench coat with this like silver,
really nice silver
feather
hair.
necklace.
Yeah, it looked really good.
I was like, that. He looks pretty cool. I'd hang out with that guy for sure.
Hey,
but,
total side note: the new Tekken game apparently very, very good.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Cool. I'm never gonna play it.
And the creator of the Mana series is in it.
Yeah, he's in it. Yeah, he's the first DLC character.
I guess so. This game is in 3D now. If you're thinking of like Secret of Mana or whatever, those kind of older 2D pixelated games, this game's in 3D. Reminded me a little bit of Dragon Quest in its general art style. They talked
exactly like the new Dragon Quest kind of games.
Yeah, it's an action RPG. You're fighting in real time, and they made a note of talking about air combat, which is cool. Yeah. But like tonally, they showed a lot of these like concept art and sketches, and the art director talked. And it was very cutesy. I really appreciated it, but overall, this just isn't really my cup of tea.
Yeah, I took some fun notes about it. The first one was that you get to ride something called a piculus, and it's based on a Yorkshire Terrier, but it's like big. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, that was a big point. It's like, funny. This is how we got the idea of the mount you'll be on. And
I love dogs.
Yeah,
we took a dog.
Cool. I will say this is probably the closest I'm going to get to playing one of these kinds of games because it's just there on Xbox.
Yeah.
So that's cool, but again, this will be something totally new and different for me.
Yeah.
If anybody is a lover or defender of these kinds of games, please say something because I would love to be convinced as to why Square Enix matters.
Sure. Well, they matter because they're making like great Final Fantasy games.
Okay.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out, and you better play the first one. It's so good.
Anyway, yeah. So. Visions of Mana.
Yeah, Visions of Mana. Launches
coming out summer of 2024.
On Game Pass. So there you go. We can all play it for free.
With Game Pass.
For your $17 a month or whatever it is now. Oxide Games came out, and they said, hey, we're a bunch of ex-Civ developers.
Yep.
And a bunch of other people, but some ex-Civ developers.
Civ 5.
Civ 5, excuse me.
Yep.
That's probably very specific. Yes, I understand.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, because people got all issues, all these Civ games. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, they announced Ara History, which is their civilization.
Ara History Untold.
History Untold, excuse me.
ARA.
Ara. Yeah. Which I think has already been announced.
Yes. But loosely.
Loosely.
Yeah.
Casually at a bar, some guy told him. Okay, Ted.
Yeah.
You're more into these than I am. What was your read on this thing? What you like these where this game's going? Stats going?
I don't know.
Okay. I didn't get a lot from it. I don't understand it.
I'm very curious. This is a bunch of ex Civ 5 developers. And for the record, Civ 5 they tried to change up the formula. They remix things. Civilizations is a very different game from what it used to be. And arguably it's because of Civ 5 and their changes. They've been making much smaller indie-esque 4X games for a long time. This is kind of their first like Microsoft is behind them.
Ted, question that I feel embarrassed to ask, but this is for my mom when she sometimes watches it. What's a 4X game? Because I don't even know what this is.
God. Okay.
Because they dropped this term.
Yeah. What are the 4Xs? The 4Xs are explore, expand, extract,
Xbox.
And exterminate. Xbox. The fifth X. But yeah, a 4X game is a grand strategy game in which you are in charge of a civilization or a kingdom, and your job, the gameplay is going to be building out your civilization, being stronger than your opponents.
Okay.
Think of it a lot like a board game. So my initial thoughts for this was that I am very skeptical about 4X games, mostly because a lot of them have done the same thing over and over again.
Sure. But this one's adding a fifth X, Ted.
Oh my
it's
God.
adding
No,
Xbox.
It's not. No, it's not. No, but they did make a point of saying, like, we're trying to do things differently. They didn't really do a good job of explaining what those things were. They mentioned a procedurally changing world.
Yeah, they called it they had a word, the living world. The map is the living world, procedurally generated Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you can assume that's going to be one of those situations where, like, if your civilization goes heavy into industry, you're going to get a more polluted world. And so probably stuff like that.
That's kind of cool.
I had a lot of questions. I had more questions than answers when I was watching this. It looked like there was real-time combat. Usually in 4X games, there's just you take turns.
It didn't look like it was turn-based, the way I looked at it.
Yeah, so they said they did simultaneous turns, which is always fun. Basically, everyone takes their turn and hits, I finish my turn, and then the world moves forward a turn, which can be a lot of fun as opposed to, like, I take my turn and wait. But they showed some small sequences of battles as well as, like, characters hunting, and it looked like it was real time, so we'll see.
Sorry, Microsoft Teams just opened and then blinded me. All right, we're good, everybody. Everybody, we're still recording.
That's the fifth X for you.
Yeah, Microsoft Teams.
So I'm very curious. I hope that they do mix up the formula and make an engaging 4X game.
Yep.
We'll see. My big takeaway, the last quote I'll just put on here is, let nerds make video games again, because this was the first presentation where you're like, all right, these guys hang out in basements. These guys are nerds.
Well, there was a very cute moment where, like, the creative director of the studio head is talking, and, like, a guy walks behind him and just goes to the vending machine and gets something out of the vending machine. And, like they all just, like, stop the recording. He looks over and he's like, hey, it's Doug or whatever. And he's like, yeah, we started the company in Doug's garage.
Yeah. Yeah, this, of the three presentations we'd watched, this is the first one where you're like, all right, these are some nerds making some video games. Which was kind of refreshing. I was like, you know what? I kind of believe they'll make a nerdy, head-scratcher, numbers-based video
because they always pick the coolest developers to be a part of these developer directs,
Totally. And they're wearing their, like, Rockstar t-shirts.
Yeah.
Necklaces.
Leather jackets, puka shells.
Yeah, but not this guy. Not these guys. So I'm very interested in what this game will be like.
There was a moment that piqued my curiosity of, maybe this is something different. At the very end, it did show something. It showed the future age. And it did show, like, Gundam-style mech development. Yep. So I was like, okay, you're going in, like, a creative direction where this game could go. So that's kind of fun. I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah. I'll bounce off of that. There's two more points I'll make. One of them, they talk about this very fluid kind of win state.
Yeah.
Mostly in 4X games, it's like if you defeat all other players on the map, you win, like a board game. Or if you accomplish some kind of objective, or some games just have, like, a straight, we play for 50 minutes, and when we're done, whoever has the highest score wins. They talk about having a very fluid system for winning, so you can kind of build your civilization however you want to, and the game will adapt around that to help you, or to get to a win state. Yeah. Again, didn't get into the nitty-gritty, so I don't really know what that means, but that's cool. And then the last thing they mentioned is they spoke about continuing the game post-release, which I think is really interesting. This is an Xbox-funded game. It's going to be on Game Pass. But they made a point of saying, like, hey, once this game releases, that's not the end. Like, we'll be adding stuff. And to anyone who's into 4X games, like, if you go on Steam right now, it'll be the 4X game, the strategy game itself, and then there's 1,000 pieces of DLC that they've been adding over the last 7 years. And so it's really interesting to see Xbox provide that of, like, hey, we're going to keep adding to this. It's going to be like a service.
Well, that's the idea of Game Pass, right? It's like they need to develop games like this that
Yeah, and you don't have to pay for it,
Yep.
you know? If you go to Paradox Interactive, their Steam page is just thousands of pieces of DLC, making all of their games $200 if you wanted the complete set. So it'll be really interesting to see a game under Game Pass
not have to do that.
Exactly.
I think that is the interesting part of Game Pass. I want to do an episode with you and maybe James if he ever wants to come back on the show. But about like streaming games and like the Game Pass model, because there's been recent comments about like the Ubisoft brand recently was like, yeah, we want to have a streaming service like this. Like that's the future, is a brand thing that you pay for like we are with TV. And even Sony recently said, was like, that's probably the future of this. And Larian came out recently and was like, hey, we just, for us, if we were trying to do what we wanted to do with this game, it would have never worked if it was a streaming model or like a Game Pass model or however you want to look at it. So it's like, we're at an interesting turning point with a lot of this stuff. So and I support Game Pass. I think it's a great thing.
This is why I want Game Pass is for a game that I like, that maybe it's not competitive multiplayer necessarily, but it's going to have continued content over time, so I can keep checking in, being like, oh, they added, this aspect or this race or this character, this I think is where Game Pass is going to shine. So I'm really excited to see what, I think they called it Xbox Insider Program.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is their version of early
access kind of program, but they release in like kind of an almost more finished state often than not.
Yeah. So that is also what I'm looking forward to with our History Untold.
All right, but enough about this game. Let's push this out of the side. Let's talk about real history, Ted. Okay. Shit that belongs in a museum, Ted. All right, we're talking about MachineGames, developer of the Wolfenstein games. These games like Wolfenstein New Order, the new Colossus, whatever they're called, amazing games. They got the Indiana Jones license. I'm curious. Indiana Jones, the Great Circle.
The Great Circle.
Well, apparently it's like an archaeological thing. There's like a circle that like all these historically religious sites are like in a circle around the globe.
Is that a real?
Apparently it's real.
Conspiracy theory?
Apparently it's real. I read it on Reddit from some guy's post on Reddit. He said it was real, and I trust it.
I thought the Great Circle was not a very good name.
I'm into it. It's an Indiana Jones name. It's better than the Dial of Destiny.
Give me alliteration.
No. There wasn't. Never had them before. Okay, so MachineGames is making Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. The game director is Jerk Gustafsson, I think is his name.
Okay.
But it was really interesting because this game was kind of pitched that it is Todd Howard's game. Todd Howard is making an Indiana Jones game.
And Todd Howard made an appearance in this little video.
And he pitched this game to Lucasfilm. He is,
by the way,
the writer, it sounds like.
I don't know if you noted this, but I wrote down in my notes that Todd Howard is looking more and more like an evil tech villain.
Yeah, he's musking it. Yeah.
Like he's getting a little skinnier. His backgrounds are getting much more elaborate, like expensive, and he's wearing like watches and bracelets. I was like, Todd, you're looking more and more like a Bond villain.
Let me tell you on Elder Scrolls 6, okay?
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, so this place takes place between Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Last Crusade. It means we're fighting Nazis. I'm very excited about this. I thought it was really interesting. This game is in first person, not third person. It's a first person game.
Sort of.
And then anytime they said that the times that you go into third person are cutscenes and environmental traversal. So I would guess like there are probably car scenes and stuff like that. But they did show that there was a scene on a plane where you were in first person running and jumping into another plane.
Right. So, and alternatively, when you lash your whip to the roof and climb a drain pipe, it is in third person.
Yeah, anytime traversal's in it, it looks like it's in third person, which I'm into, thank God. I think this looks great. I think this looks like kind of maybe the best case scenario for an Indiana Jones game. If we're going to use this IP, I'm actually really surprised, and I'm kind of curious, like, Uncharted and the newer Tomb Raiders are very like Indiana Jones based, like they are.
Totally.
That it's so funny that they didn't kind of just copy those games. Like I think it's so funny you're not in first person or in third person, just like it's like an Uncharted game with Indy. Like they really mixed up the formula. What do you think? What do you think?
I actually didn't think about that. To your point of this is the best possible situation, I think you may have actually hit the nail on the head there. Mostly because if this was a third-person action game, it loses its Indiana Jones charm and becomes like, what cool combos can I do whipping somebody and then like 1-2 punching them? And that's not what Indiana Jones is. Because what I wrote down is it's first person question mark. It looks like a puzzle game question mark.
Yeah.
There's also stealth aspects question mark.
They talked a lot about the puzzles. They said there are a lot of puzzles. There's a lot of extra puzzles that you don't even have to do or find. But they said that every situation that you enter, they are really emphasizing to you to be clever about it, but you can go in guns a-blazing. But what would Indy do, kind of thing? Yeah.
So that all is very cool. I think I was kind of taken aback by the puzzle aspect, which once it's shown to you, it makes absolute sense. It's like, all the fun parts of Indiana Jones are him solving some kind of ridiculous puzzle.
Yeah, it's never him punching a Nazi. Well, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. But so that I think that would be really cool. I think if this game is something of like a weird stealth action puzzle game where fighting is not the key, I think that would be a lot of fun. Obviously, you're going to get your cinematic moment where you pull out a pistol and shoot a guy with a sword.
Yep.
But we'll see. I thought graphically it looked kind of rough. Did you feel that way? Maybe it was the video I was watching.
I think it was interesting that it wasn't like trying to be photorealistic. So like Wolfenstein has this kind of art style as well, where it's like these like very trying to like polygonal is not the right word, but like the shaping of faces isn't like a normal like smooth shape. It's like rougher edges everywhere, and like it's almost going it's almost going for like a stylized video game aesthetic, and I mean that like capital VG, where like it is definitely a video game. It's almost like kind of like what Telltale's doing or was doing, where like, this is definitely not photorealism, but it's also not comic book. It's a little polygonal. Yeah.
I was taken aback by it. I think maybe after watching multiple videos of people like showing off their awe-inspiring graphics.
I also don't think it shows very well in snippets. I think it shows very well in like long stretches where people are talking to you, and like I think the Wolfenstein. This is why I have full faith in this game, because MachineGames has developed 2 incredible Wolfenstein games that deal with crazy Nazi shit.
They've actually made 3 Wolfenstein games.
But they've only made 2 incredible Wolfenstein games. They've actually made 4, I believe. I believe that they did make a VR game as well.
This is the sports fan being like, they've won the World Series 4 times, all right? That's 4 whole times. They've hit it out of the park.
27, baby.
Out of 150.
Exactly. No, but they've made 2 incredible, in their wheelhouse, first-person single-player games. Youngbloods. Was it Youngbloods? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Youngbloods, which is like, that was like a co-op weird competitive, or like, co-op stealth game.
One might argue it was an experiment gone wrong.
Yes, I believe it was too. I think it was DLC that they kind of pushed into its own thing, and then another was a VR game. So I don't like discredit them on those.
VR doesn't count. VR is purely experimental nowadays.
So I'm really into this. I really believe in this game. Everything that they showed me, I think Indiana Jones is a weird brand, because I think it's a brand we hold in a lot higher regard than it kind of is sometimes. There's a lot of not good Indiana Jones opposed to good Indiana Jones.
First of all, how dare you?
There are 5 Indiana Jones movies, and 2 of them are good.
3 of them are good. What are you talking about?
Temple of Doom is not very good.
Temple of Doom is a classic.
Temple of Doom has like a good 40-minute ending, and that's about it. The rest of that movie is so boring.
Short Round?
Ooh. Electric.
Incredible. Incredible character.
The sidekicks in Indiana Jones are never very good. We just kind of pretend.
Short Round is amazing.
Raiders of the Lost Ark has the most bizarre ending to an adventure movie of all time. He doesn't solve anything or do anything. He just kind of sits there. They all die, and then that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, well, they were the Nazis.
True. So, but I'm very excited. This looks like a great Indiana Jones game. I love the emphasis on like the whip as a tool, as a combat facility. You can use it to distract people, to like smack something off a shelf so someone goes check something out. They showed you walking by a minecart at some point, and you pick up like a hammer and throw it at a dude to knock him out. It felt very indie. Yeah. Indie has a feel, and usually that feel is there in the movies, despite if they're good or not. And
I will say this was the only game of the 5 that we saw that really was like trying to pitch its narrative, I think. And I think they did a fantastic job. They showed, I think it was 2 separated cutscenes, and they were like, hey, like, what was it? some creepy character steals something from the museum, and Indy's trying to figure out why it's important, and it takes him to the Vatican, and then he discovers this whole circle of, and it was like, oh shit, that's actually really cool. That's pretty interesting.
Well, because now Ted 2, you can go to every cool location on Earth in this video game because it's a circle of great locations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I was pretty sold on the narrative. I was like, that's a good hook for a story right there.
It's a good indie movie.
And it did not take long to fall into like, that's an indie movie plot. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. What if I was to pitch you on a plot where there's this dial that you can go back into history with and back into time? And fuck that movie. I hate that movie so much.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh, Ted, it's like,
no,
it's terrible. It's terrible.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a really tough question. Okay. Does it make Indiana Jones 4 a better movie? Relatively speaking. So, do you now have to put...
It doesn't make it a better... It doesn't make it a better movie.
Uh-huh. Is the Crystal Skull higher on your list of the 5?
I think Crystal Skull has more fun moments.
Wow.
The beginning
Indiana
scene
Jones
with him...
2024.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to you about Indiana Jones for a second. This is our podcast.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I'm going to spoil parts of Dial of Destiny, but not like really big parts. Is that okay with you?
That's totally fine.
The beginning of the movie is the first 30 minutes of Dial of Destiny are awesome. It is young Indiana Jones, like Harrison Ford with the de-aged face, so sometimes it looks funky. But it's him doing like an old indie caper against the Nazis, taking some relic, right?
Sure.
That's like what kicks it off. But it's like a good indie time. Then the movie like cuts and it jumps to like old ass Indiana Jones. And he's like sitting in a chair and he's like asleep in this chair and he's like fat and he's old and he's like, yeah, Harrison Ford's 80 years old. So now you've established in this movie that Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, is like an old man. And that's this movie is like Indy's old. Like 20 minutes later, the motherfuckers jump in from like motorcycles, horses. He's like running like against a train. Like it just no longer makes sense. And the stakes of the movie are just so bizarre after that because you're like, no longer do I believe anything that's happening in this movie.
Yeah.
And it gets like
at no point has he proven he's an old man.
Yeah. And then like the mystery of it and the ending of it is just as bad as like Crystal Skull stuff towards the end. So that's my review of Dial of Destiny.
Is Crystal Skull better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because okay, we tried to make a new Indiana Jones movie. Crystal Skull tried to be just like bring back Indiana Jones, and it didn't work. Yeah. We learned our lesson. Dial of Destiny was like, well, let's just try it again.
Let's do that again.
And it didn't work. Yeah. They do kill Shia LaBeouf's character off screen.
Off screen?
Yeah. He's like really sad about his son's death in Vietnam.
Oh my god. Oh, that's sorry. That's not funny. But
well, kinda.
That's what a stupid way to write off a character you don't like.
Yeah, like you just don't want Shia LaBeouf in this movie. It's like, we iced him.
Oh my god.
I'm very excited for this Indiana Jones game. This made me go, yeah, I'm glad I subscribed to Game Pass. I'm excited for Xbox to... This has been what I've hoped for with Bethesda that we haven't got yet, in my opinion, is I was excited for Xbox money, their structure, their everything, to start influencing Bethesda-owned studios in a positive direction.
Yep.
Starfield, they made another one of their games, and that's fine if you like it.
And I mean, as far as we know, Starfield was conceived
before
and in production before the deal. I think we said it at the time. Like, we can't necessarily blame Microsoft for what Starfield is.
No. But it is what it is. But I'm excited now to see MachineGames, not really under the Bethesda banner anymore. It's an Xbox studio. And I thought that was really cool. And I'm very excited about that. And I love MachineGames. So I'm glad that they kind of have funding to be safe. So that made me really excited. So Indiana Jones, I think it looks great. It's coming out this year too, which is exciting.
Yeah, I really hope I enjoy it, if that makes sense. Like, I wasn't necessarily sold graphically or what they were saying about what the game's going to be. I think I just need to play it or maybe watch extended gameplay. Because, again, what this game is in spirit will define what it is so heavily.
They need to show a chunk. They need to show, 10 minutes of Indiana Jones cutscene gameplay, traversal thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I just need to know, like, if this is going to be a stealth puzzle game, how does that work? Because, I mean, the adage for stealth games that we know at this point is just a fact. Is like, stealth games are really fun until you start failing the stealth, and then it's not fun. There's a hard cutoff of, like, I'm a badass. Oh, I got spotted. Restart the level. I'm upset now. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, that's why Metal Gear Solid 5 is such a fantastic video game, is because that's a stealth game that lets you play with like, oh, I got spotted.
Yeah, let's figure this out.
How do I? Yeah, let's figure this out.
No, I agree.
So we'll see.
That was kind of always my holdup with like Dishonored games, was kind of that like mentality of like, all right, let me go back to the beginning. It's like, I don't love that feeling.
The most important lesson I learned with stealth games is to just roll with it. I played Dishonored. The first half of that game I played very strictly of like, oh, I got spotted, restart the level, restart the checkpoint. And then at some point I was like, I don't give a shit anymore. And then I would just start icing people like a hitman, you know?
Yep.
And you just got to have fun.
And then you have 45 dead bodies in your bathroom at a fashion show.
Yeah. But like Indiana Jones, the character, the concept is perfect for like, oh, shit went wrong. I'm going to have to deck a guy in the face.
Yes.
So if they can pull that off and still make me feel like I'm progressing and having a good time, 10 out of 10.
Well, and you know what I thought was interesting in this game too is like Uncharted is the comparison point for me. It's the Indiana Jones of video games. Uncharted, I never felt like I'm Nathan Drake. I'm like playing Nathan Drake's story, which is something I love in video games. Like I love to play through someone else's story. But they talked about like, we're here to make you Indiana Jones. And like,
they did say that.
It was so cool to see like him grab the Nazi by the collar and go, bah, bah, but it's your hands, like it's first person you doing it.
Right.
And if they can nail that perspective and nail that like feeling of like, no, I'm Indian. Like what would Indy do right now? Well, I got to run in there and just hit this guy and grab the shovel and like see what happens. Yeah. I think that's really cool. And that could make it different than just being like, we made an Indiana Jones game that's Uncharted. Because they could have easily done that.
Yeah. Well, and to MachineGames also, they've acknowledged with Wolfenstein, what was the New Order, the first game?
Yeah, the New Order was the first game.
They've acknowledged that like they tried to do a stealth option in that game, and it didn't work. It didn't really work out. And it didn't work out for all the things I just said, right? As soon as you get spotted, stealth is no longer an option, so you have to start gunning people down. Yeah. And they even said like, we have been focusing on making changes. The second game comes out. I never played it, but
it's so good.
Yeah. They apparently did a lot to change that, and so I fully believe that MachineGames could make a good stealth puzzle game.
Yeah.
Question mark, I guess.
Yeah. Or just say, a creative puzzle game. I'm interested in it.
Yeah. So Xbox here, they showed us
5 games.
5 games.
4 and a surprise, baby.
4 and Square Enix.
It was so bizarre too. Like the little mouse reticle went over, and the mouse reticle said Square Enix, and it like grabbed something from off screen and brought it into screen. I was like, this is
they
awful.
had the whole like so and so wants to join your meeting, and I was like, don't. Like I use Microsoft enough at work. Like I don't need this.
It was a Smash Bros. A new challenger's approach.
Yeah, that would have been better. God, they just need the Teams bubble of like you're getting a call.
Right, yeah. Oh, Japan's calling us weird.
That would trigger me. No, so they showed off 5 games beginning of 2024. Definitely like a showcase of like, hey, this is kind of what you can expect for if you're paying for Game Pass. What did you think overall?
I think they showed something that would probably interest almost everybody, which I think is kind of what you want to do at this point.
Sure.
Let it be like, I don't know if they sold everybody on these, but like at least you've got piqued interest. And this is like, if you do subscribe to Game Pass, please stay subscribed because we have more coming your way. Rather than like, this is why you need Game Pass. That's what I felt. I felt like, oh, well, I subscribed to it, so I'll probably keep it now. Yeah. I have to keep it because I got to play Madden. So, but besides the point. No. So I thought they did a good job there, but I don't think they did a good job selling people on a lot of this. Mm-hmm. I think E3 presentation time when they show more Indiana Jones and get people really hyped, I think that could really help. But yeah, what about you?
I'm not going to lie, I was pretty disappointed. We didn't get any shadow drops or any kind of like, and it's available now. Like, I know we shouldn't necessarily expect that kind of thing from them, but just Hi-Fi Rush coming out and then just being like, this is a weird little thing we've been trying. It's out right now. Please give it a shot. And we gave it a shot, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. It was a great little video game. Last year.
So they announced beforehand that they were going to do no shadow drops. They did.
Of course they were. Yeah. You know what would be great is if they announced that and then shadow dropped anyway. Yeah. But no, because that to me really highlighted like why I love Game Pass. It's like these kind of weird, quirky smaller things that I might not know about otherwise, but because Microsoft is a behemoth and is pushing them, we get them.
Yeah.
And none of these 5 games really show. I guess Indiana Jones would be the closest one, but to me, that's not coming out till the end of 2024.
I think it's like a November game, to be honest.
That's going to be their biggest push of the year is Indiana Jones. It's not some kind of smaller like, oh, by the way, check this out.
Yeah.
I was really kind of expecting this like Visions of Mana to be like, hey, and it's available in March.
Right.
It's soon, like pace it out. But all of these games are coming out. I think the earliest one is Hellblade 2 is coming out in May. Yep. And then everything else is fall or summer or even just 2024.
Yeah.
Which means maybe not 2024.
means probably delayed. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of just like pacing, I was kind of disappointed that I wasn't getting anything for the first half of the year.
That's a good point.
Again, this could have also been a situation where they throw in 3 much smaller, littler games of like, hey, spend 4 hours playing these small games, kind of like a Nindies situation. But they didn't do that either. So I was a little disappointed.
No, that makes
sense.
I'm
excited. Yeah, I'm excited for these games.
Sure.
I now have interest in 3 of them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's kind of was the goal of this one. But I don't know. I think Xbox has a big challenge ahead of them to set themselves up to be a competitor in like the big game space. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Whoa. Whoa.
I get emotional speaking about this. No Stalker.
No. We're not going to talk about that
nothing.
game anymore. They're done.
What happened to it? It was coming out fall of 2022?
Yeah, it was fall of 2022. It's now 2024. Well, they were a Ukraine developer, right? They were like shut down because of that. Was that them?
Is that what happened?
I think so, but I'm gonna check that before I decree that's
because I had heard that Stalker was projected to come out this year.
I think it is.
But then I saw like the Reddit conversation about that they were a Ukrainian developer and that obviously development had been stinted because there's a war on.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I thought too. But I'm looking it up.
Okay.
I'm trying to see.
Okay, because I am surprised that this is what Xbox brought to the table as like, here is our 2024.
Here's our meat and potatoes.
It absolutely builds into our theory that like we're going to see video games kind of contract or be a little bit more conservative in the next few years as we kind of figure out our post-pandemic world.
Yes.
But
Czech Republic, so kind of near there.
Okay.
But probably.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not getting conscripted. That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
For now.
That'll be a different video game we play.
Yeah.
That's actually the end game of Era History Untold.
Jesus.
So I don't. Yeah.
One of the win conditions. Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the beginning of the year. We'll see how it goes.
I was surprised they didn't have like a scissor roll at the end or anything. Like anything to be like, here's like what else you can look forward to playing on Game Pass. It was like,
yeah, kind of. Maybe they will do that. Maybe like you said, they'll ramp up closer to that June.
Yeah.
Time. When it comes time to prepare for the fall season is when we really get a lot of like, here's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think like this was titled like a developer direct, so I think it was definitely geared towards a different audience than like what the E3 presentation is. So I'm thinking this is more like the people that like our stuff, here's what we're giving you. Then like here's the big push later on in the year. We spotlight Indiana Jones. We talk about our next attempt at a Halo game, and we got a Gears game next year.
Do you think that's true?
I think they have to make more Halo. That's all they got. They got no brands.
Yeah, that's all they had a couple years ago, and they shot
whiffed.
and they missed.
They
whiffed.
They canceled Halo Battle Royale.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
That makes sense.
No.
Yeah.
No. Did co-op ever come out for that?
I'm sorry.
Did co-op ever come out for that?
I don't know.
I don't think it did.
I know that Forge mode has come out because the people making Forge games are doing incredible things.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Somebody made a tabletop like dice rolling strategy game in Halo Forge. Apparently, it's fantastic. Blowing people's minds.
We're gonna play it.
It's like Warhammer, but you play.
That's awesome.
You're like.
But we're Spartans in the Warhammer.
Yeah, but like in the Halo world, like you see a top-down view, and they built out the Andy's room in the background. It's fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, look up Halo Infinite Forge Mode turn-based tabletop RPG. Apparently, it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
We'll dig more into this for the viewers, but
next time.
Anyway, Forge Mode is out, but I have no idea if that co-op ever.
And who's to say it did? Who's to say?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching the 157th episode of the Sidescape Gaming Podcast. My name's Jake. That's Ted. James isn't here, and we will see you next week.
We'll get James back.
Yeah, maybe.
We're in contract.
We're kind of feeling on a roll right now, baby. I feel like we could do this without him.
No, I want him back.
We're just gonna. The intro is just gonna be your face, but shittily photoshopped on top of everything that his does.
No, I want James back. He's the only one who knows how to play Fallout 76.
That's true. If Vault Buddies must continue, we need James back.
Yeah, I know you're gonna cut me out of the podcast, but we're gonna keep playing that game.